Hello, I'm Terrydavidmulligan. I'm the host producer of Mulligan Stew. It's a CKWA radio network, donor supported. This this interview I'm about to do literally reflects my life in music as well as Ron Carter's. Ron Carter is 87 years old today, May the 4th. Happy birthday, Ron Carter. All the music that I listened to, because I was playing trumpet at the time, it was Miles Davis, Chet Baker, but Miles in particular. And Ron Carter was his bassist for the second band and for a number of years. It was phenomenal that that same guy, Ron Carter, would show up on all of the great albums of my life and all of our lives because it was the music of jazz, Miles Davis and beyond. And then I started to look at where I was hearing Ron Carter in popular music: Billy Joel, Erykah Badu, Roberta Flack, Paul Simon, all sorts of stuff that they needed that sound, the sound of Ron Carter. And I had so many things to ask him. I kept saying, I can't get all these questions in. And I just had to let the man talk. He teaches music. He is a living history of jazz and music. And we are so lucky to have him in our lives. So have a look. Have a look at this interview with Ron Carter. By the way, he tries to show me something on the bass, stand-up bass. He goes and gets it, comes back. But the bass was so loud that it kind of blocked the microphone, but you get a sense of it. Here's the birthday boy himself, Ron Carter. I am the luckiest guy in the world to get to talk to him. Enjoy. My name is Terrydavidmulligan. I was at one time going to be a policeman, a Mountie here in Canada. And I just realized that I couldn't sit in my car, police car, and listen to jazz and then take care of crime and punishment. And I had to make a choice. So I phoned my father and said, Dad, I'm going to leave the RCMP. What are you going to do, son? I'm going to be a disc jockey, Dad. And he hung up. And took me 2 years to get him back to talk to me. Anyway, it was jazz. Oh, it was jazz that took me. Jazz and Wolfman Jack, rhythm and blues, music that I had never heard and just pulled me along. Did you have those moments growing up?
No. First of all, I've never thought a policeman was in my in my blood, so to speak. Secondly, back in the day of my birth in 1937, the police departments were not interested in hiring people of color. And my father thought that with the large family he was supporting with my mother,
right,
he could get a job when he graduated high school, first year of college, as a fireman. And they told him the same rules applied to people of color for the fire department that were applied by the police department. Ultimately, he found something to do, was a very successful man. So fire department and those departments, I think to this day, are still limited in their respect and recognition of people of color. I've been playing cello since I was 12 or 13 from this high. And I always thought music was what I wanted to do. I wasn't planning on being a jazz musician. I had my solo heart on being an orchestral player or a solo cellist. And as my time got more and more, I got better and better and changed teachers who could help me do what I could try to do best with this new advanced teaching and advanced teachers. When I got to a place where I was really proficient, I was thought to be a very highly talented person of color playing this thing called the cello. As I got older and older and played better and better, I found out that there were actually fewer opportunities for a cellist of color, no matter how good he played. And one day I looked around to the orchestra I was playing in, the high school orchestra, I realized that the bass player was graduating. I've been very good at math for a really long time.
Oh, nice.
And I figure one minus one leaves zero. And if he left, there'd be no bass players. Well, I was going to be that guy. So I asked my parents for permission. I traded in my cello for a bass. I owed money on it for a while. Got a teacher and got a scholarship to the Eastman School of Music as a bassist. The scholarship lasts long enough to finish school for 4 years, doing the dishes in the meantime, working weekends. And here I am asking the same question to T.D. Mulligan in Canada. How are you this afternoon?
Thank you. Um, I heard about I had read about you arriving in Detroit, playing cello and being convinced to switch to bass because there was no room for black cello players. But we all benefited from it, including you, because you ended up being the greatest, just the greatest. I have I'm my I'm surrounded by in my show. I've been doing this for 28 years now. I have a blues show that starts in front of me that's been on longer than me, 50, 55 years, and an R&B
wow.
show on the other side that's been on just as long. So I'm in the middle, and I came from popular music, rock and roll, rhythm and blues, and I'm finding the through line between blues and rhythm and blues in popular music. So as much as I'd love to talk about Quincy and Stan Getz and and Wayne Shorter and Maiden Voyage and Miles. I'm just as interested in knowing your time with Erykah Badu, Bette Midler, Billy Joel, Aretha Franklin, Eddie Harris, because that's where you found me. That's where I found you. And then I went from there, and I realized that I've been listening to you all of my life.
Yeah, well, I can give you one or two footnotes of recording with them to help you. Interestingly enough, people think that when you make records with people, when they record friends, they hang out. That's not the case, at least in New York. Once the date is over, it's like this.
Yeah.
Everyone goes their own way. So I have very little social connections to the people I made those records with. Having said that, there's a reason my relationship to Eddie Harris is a little bit different, because I get a call. I was in Boston one day working with Tony Williams and Gabor Szabo and Charles Lloyd at a place in Boston. I get this call from Eddie Harris, who I know from his big record, Exodus. And he says, I'm putting together a day at Atlantic Records. That's a date, whatever it is. Cedar Walton and Billy Higgins, and there's some songs they want to play, but we don't have lead sheets.
Wow.
Well, I'm just a bass player in the band, man. I mean, what can I do with that? He said, well, can you find us the lead sheet or make a lead sheet for A Shadow of Your Smile? I said, well, Eddie, I'm working a gig in Boston. He said, yeah, I know, but I need this help. Mm-hmm. Okay, so it just happened to be that the theater next door to the club was the Sandpiper, whose theme song was The Shadow of Your Smile. But the thing in the movie, they never played it straight through. They play 8 bars and act, and then 8 bars and cry, and then 9 bars. I said, wait a minute. So I'm sitting in the movies for the whole site. I didn't see the movie at all. I'm counting the bars between this manuscript in the dark, and there's a space between the acting, and then the next scene, another part of the theme. And there was anyway, I got something that looked like the piece to me. That's all I could tell. So I said, Eddie, I got something that looks pretty good, but you have to tell me how right it is. So I just took what I had, the piece of paper, and rumpled it up, of course, and erased his mark in the dark. I missed some of the notes and stuff like that. They said, well, this works for us. So we get the record, get the studio and look at it. The rest is the end sound record.
One of my favorite songs of all time is Compared to What, for the lyrics alone, but it's a great groove by Eddie Harris. But you played a version of that with Roberta Flack, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. The footnote to that record is that Roberta came to New York with her group from Washington, D.C., where she was living and working, recommended by Les McCann, who recommended her to Joe Dorn, who was my friend, producer at Atlantic Records at the time. And Joe signed her to come to New York, sign Atlantic Records, and make a recording with her record, with her band, doing her library that she had in Washington. The club was called Mr. Charlie's, I think. She was very well known there. She had a great following and a great library, great arrangements. And she and her two sidemen, bass player and drummer, came to New York to make this record, her first record, and in the big time. As the story is, as 2 days go by, they don't have enough material to make a record. And so I get a call from Joe Dorn, my friend, who was known me throughout the years. He said, Ron, I'm in downtown the 60th Street where the studio was, and they got this band from Washington, and they don't really know how to make a record, so we need to get this project done before another day or so passes. Can you come by and make this record with us? I said, yeah. So he called Grady. You could call it, no, not Grady, the drummer from I just was driving the cab. I forget his name for a moment. Bucky Picciarelli. We go and meet Roberta. She's got a nice book written out. She turns out to have a really great voice. And most impressively, she knew where she wanted her chords played, and she wanted to know the voicing that she wanted, you know. And Bucky is a consummate accompanist, man. He knows all that stuff. And I'm not too far back, so I said, let's do this record then. And she played part of her tune, and we figured out what part we had to play. And we did the record in a day and a half or less. And the results of a record called First Take.
Fantastic.
It's amazing, but the bass sounded great that day. I told Tom Dow, the engineer, that I got to hire him next time because he makes the bass sound really good.
Bear with me here, Ron, because again, this is a lifetime of questions, all in one 30-minute span here.
I'll talk faster.
Bette Midler, friends from the Divine Miss M. She literally, did you record at the same time? Did you lay down your band track, the band track, and go on and sang it?
She was there. Milt Hinton was on these tracks with her.
Yeah,
they call him the Judge. You may know his reputation. One of the first bass players of color to break into the New York studio scene. A really nice man.
Yeah,
and an equally fabulous photographer. And he had some good basses too, so he really played well.
Yeah.
He took me under his wing, and when he was always double booked or too busy to do what he called, he would call me, and he trusted me to be responsible, to act and behave musically on his behalf as he would if he was there. So again, we go to the studio, and I explained to everybody I'm the new guy, and Milt Hinton said I could come in and do this job for him on his behalf. They said, well, let's see what do you got? So let's go to work. And the results of that track or so, you know.
Listen, I should have done this at the top, not very professional. May the 4th, 1937 was your birth date. So you'll be 87, May 4. Congratulations.
I'm this far away.
And then it's a blur. It's gone.
Yes. I keep subtracting.
I would be neglecting my duty if I didn't ask something about Miles, simply because he had such a profound effect on me because I was a trumpet player. And,
oh, wow.
And we all wanted to play like Miles until I heard Chet Baker. When I heard Chet Baker, I said, no, I want to play like Chet Baker, but that sound, man. Stanley Crouch, a writer, 1964, wrote about Miles and said, he's a combination of anger and anguish. But the Miles that we all knew in audience and read about and heard about, and the Miles that you knew, are they different?
Yes.
Yeah. How so?
I went to say how. Well, you know, I never saw the behavior he was credited with having. You know, he treated the band well. He paid us on time. He knew how to lead us. I never saw the behavior that the page sixes of newspapers or the Stanley Crouches would describe as his demeanor. You know, one point I'll underline here is that when Miles would leave the bandstand, he'd go off stage. You know, the people didn't see him until he came in again. But if they were listening to what's going on, the band was still playing. And for all those times, TD, that Miles left the stage and came back, he never came in at the wrong time. No matter what we were playing, how far out it was at the time, how loud it was, how different it was than the last time we played the song, he always came in at the right time, man. And if those people who say that how he left the stage were so concerned about that, they forgot that he got back on stage right on time.
Sure.
We had his undivided attention, even though he wasn't there.
Ron Carter is my guest here on Mulligan's Too. I'm Terry Mulligan. Here's the deal.
Okay.
One of the ongoing quotes that we always heard about Miles, and then I'll move on, and that is, it wasn't so much what he played, it was what he didn't play. The spaces between the notes, so to speak, if I've got that right.
Okay.
What effect did that have on you and your notes?
Well, you know, I can never, as you bring that topic up, I can never say, I remember a time when Miles didn't play.
Yeah.
When I was playing with him. He seemed to me that he was playing all the time. And I don't mean a constant stream of, I know he's just playing the trumpet. That he left some time to play. That was never a significant point necessarily in me doing something that filled that space he left for us to fill. I just thought that he was taking a breath. I mean, he went into circular breathing like Duke Ellington's band was, and like Eddie Harris could do. And then I've seen George Coleman do that circular breathing where you hold a note for 4 or 5 days, take a breath, and 5 more days. You know, I don't know whether he was aware of that. I'm sure he was because he was pretty aware of who was playing and what they were playing. But I never treated that when he was playing as an opportunity to put something there. I thought that as long as he was playing, he could hear what was going on.
Yeah.
And I would trust him to know that because I got this big special note that's coming up, he didn't need to play it. I mean, I was kind of helping him make those decisions. The band was. And so I wasn't so conscious of how he didn't play or when he didn't play it.
Yeah.
I was more conscious of how he knew where we were all the time in the tune, no matter what we played.
How long did it take you to find your sound, Ron?
Probably 19, maybe 1836, something like that. My determination, though, TD, was when I found it, I wasn't going to let it go.
Yeah.
And I tell my students, when you get a sound that you want to be responsible for, your job is to maintain that sound and be able to produce it when your bass comes out of that case.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of known for having a sound that people easily recognize by making sure when I take the case off my case bass, I can do that.
But your sound.
Yes, that.
It's a little tough because none of us are bass players. But it's about lightness, it's about aggressiveness, it's about what? What is it? Where's the fulcrum?
It's about having a point to where the note is and where it stops.
Yeah. I
think it's as much about my note choices and combined with the sound that I'm producing to make that note there.
Yeah.
I think this just isn't the sound in of itself. But can I call it TD?
Yep.
Touchdown. It isn't just this. The sound is what the sound encompasses. That's what it is. It encompasses a certain set of notes, a certain set of rhythms. And as long as the sound agrees with these two events, it's mine. And my job is to produce that every time I take the bass out of the case, as often as the creator allows.
And that's why they come to you. That's why they trust you.
I can't say that, but you can say that louder.
I can say that. I'm telling you now. One of the things I've done in my life is I was an actor, and I also did interviews on set for a show called Movie Television, and I loved doing it. And then I became a member of the Critics' Choice, the Broadcast Film Critics Association. And one of the things that I saw that I wanted to do was every summer we have to screen and choose the documentaries of the year. And what I didn't know was that there were 300 or 400 documentaries that you had to screen over the course of a summer. But
screen or stream?
I do remember finding the right notes. I remember, and I said to them in a Zoom meeting, I said, that one I want. I'm going to start right there. I'm glad that documentary got shot, but there could easily be a follow-up.
Well, I'm working on book 2 in my head and little notes about the second book that is on as a prelude to the documentary. It was that documentary was 6 years in the making.
Yeah,
Peter Schnall and the crew, they followed me wherever they could, wherever I was working that was reasonable. And the choices that they had to pick from were a lot. And I trusted that when they did the editing and the sound, they would pick the ones that they would felt in their view after seeing me for these various situations for a total of 6 years. They would compile a story that they felt best demonstrate to strangers who I was behind the bass.
Sure.
The better they got at doing that, the more we became interested in doing volume 2.
Okay.
we'll see how that turns out in the real world of whether I can get that done before I reach 90.
I'm 5 years behind you. Um, Teaching music.
Yes.
It could be a tough gig. It could be, but I think it might give you some joy. Does it give you joy?
Absolutely. Mr. Mulligan, what it has allowed me to do, it's like touchdown, TD. What it has allowed me to do is understand what I do. I think musicians have always been afraid of that kind of self-analysis because it takes the magic out of what they do. Half the magic, TD, is not knowing how you did that. And I like that mystery, man. I don't really care how I did it. I just know I did it me. But when you have students who are astute kids, who are interested in how to get better and what does it take to make that work and how did you do that, it makes me sit down and figure out how I did that. And occasionally when I try to show the kids what I did, when I figure out what it was I did, they're just as amazed as I am that I'm the guy who did that happen. And how did I figure that out? Like this. And occasionally we just sit down and the lesson just stops while we laugh for about 6 minutes and get back to work and enjoy the mystery of what we almost solved. I like that. I have good kids who get better and better because I help them get better. They do the work. They got a job.
Sure.
Their job is to be a student. If they can understand that idea, they've got the responsibility. The progress that they make is always astounding to them as it is pleasing to me.
Sometimes words fail. If you're trying to explain something, a riff or something you're trying to talk about, if you just play it, they understand if they're listening.
Yeah. Hold on for a minute.
Yep. He's Ron Carter, by the way. I'm T.D. Mulligan because that's what was on the screen. I'm Terrydavidmulligan, and this is the Mulligan Stew podcast. I am living a dream, friends, because I listened to Ron Carter my entire life. And as I told him, not necessarily that I knew it was him, but then when I went back and did my history, then I realized I had been listening to him all my life.
Yeah, just to answer your question with a point,
yes,
I can tell them what a nice phrase can sound like. But if I play it for them, they have a better idea of maybe emulating that presentation to them.
Thank you, young man. Thank you.
There are no words for that. But if I show them, they understand what I'm aiming to have them understand, one of the possibilities of the bass.
I
know, man.
No, that's cool. No, it's cool. I just have questions fighting here. Hold on a second. Are you still writing books on jazz history?
Yes.
Okay. This is. Hold on a second. I'll grab this one. Yeah, the big ass book on jazz.
Yes. Yeah.
I've marked it up. The History of America's Music, Jeffrey C. Ward. What's left to write then?
Well, many years ago, Arthur Taylor wrote a book called Notes and Tones. If you don't know that book, you got to add that to the collection. He interviewed a lot of musicians with pointed questions that only musicians could ask and only musicians could answer. A trumpet player named Jeremy Pelt, who was really, really good player, has decided to take up that banner, the musical griot of the scene, and has expanded on that book by interviewing some of the same musicians and the new bunch of guys.
Yeah.
It's called Notes and Tones. You gotta get that book. Number one, because the people he talks to know the questions are familiar to them because they heard it before and they've prepared some kind of answers because they've already done this process before. They're very good speakers. They know the language of language. They have a good verbal usage of describing situations. And it's a good book that everyone who thinks they know musicians speak hip and slang. This book shows us how having a great vocabulary. It's called Arthur Taylor, Notes and Tones. If you get a chance, try to find it.
Yeah.
It's a great book for your library.
You and Carlos Santana got together to record. And I was interviewing him once, and I said, Carlos, when you got to Woodstock and you were supposed to have 6 hours of relaxation before you went on stage, and they said, no, you have to go now because the bands haven't shown up. What did you tell yourself when you walked on stage? And he said, Carlos, play in time and in tune. So when you're on stage,
yeah,
are you allowing yourself to have any of those thoughts, or is it another world?
Well, when I'm going on stage right now, TD, we have what we call bass du jour.
Yeah.
That's the bass of the day.
Yeah.
My first concern is, can this bass do something? Or no. How does it? What will this bass allow me to do? I either have an hour to try to play it at backstage at the hotel,
yeah,
or 20 minutes from the dressing room to the sound check and the gig. I'll say for the first time. My first thoughts are, is the bass high enough for me to stand and play? And how high are the strings from the fingerboard?
Okay.
And once I have the understanding that the bass permits me to do some things, I hope on the stage that I can find out what they are in time to impress the band that I'm really with them.
Can I ask you about, because I love it, a song for you, Leon Russell's song.
Yes.
From your solo album, 1978. I just loved it. I loved how you treated it, the respect that you showed for the song and the writer.
You know, when I first heard, I was in Japan years ago, Tokyo somewhere, and I walked by this McDonald's, man. And they had this music playing, and there's a little speaker over the cell, over the door. And that speaker, they were playing Carmen McRae singing that song.
Wow.
That's what I said. I said, wow. I know Carmen McRae. She sings that song too. Let me get a whole other version of that. So I bought the music. So I wrote an arrangement for the quartet and for the cellos. That's one of the bands, when the non-nets hits. People who see the group when I formed them want to hear that song, a song for you. I have been trying to meet him all these years, and unfortunately, he left the concert before I could say thank you for that song. But it's a really nice tune.
How about the bass players, if I can, as an aside, in modern music for the last 20, 30 years? I'm thinking of Zigaboo from the Meters, from New Orleans. I'm thinking about some of the bass combinations out of Bob Marley's band, just doing different things.
George Porter, he's another New Orleans bassist, a fabulous player.
Sure. Robbie
from the West Indian, Caribbean, Barbados.
On the one.
Yeah, I never met. I finally met George 4 or 5 years ago in New Orleans, and what a pleasure it was to meet the man who made the Meters happen. He was the band, man.
Yeah.
He was the guy who drove that ship, and knowing Monty Alexander and how he plays, and and Zig and Marley, and I knew El Harewood was a Bayesian guy, and Paul Wood. It was just a pleasure to meet those people who were their inspiration, their source of that beat. One of the things that always impressed me about West Indian records is the recorded sound was so fabulous.
Yeah.
You had the guitar clicking like this on the offbeat, and the bass riffs, man, they were so articulate. I said, man, how do they get that so much stuff going all the time? They're hopping around on the stage, and they just, I said, man, wow, how did they do that? And again, Robbie got out of here, and fortunately, George is still playing great down in New Orleans. I'd like to just have more time to sit down with him and discuss uh, how you got to do what you do all these years and still be responsible for playing the bass. It's amazing to me, those two guys in particular.
I might as well throw these questions away because I'll never get them in. And they're
Come on,
no,
we
no.
have time.
I'll sit here and kick cans down the road. New artists that I think I'm sure you know about. I wonder if well, first of all, John Batiste. Look what John Batiste done.
Yeah, he's a wonderful. First, but he's a good player of the history of the piano.
Yep.
If you get him to sit down for a moment and not worry about the stage, he can show you, like Jackie Bayard, the history of the piano. And it's amazing to see these guys do that. I used to always love playing with Jackie Bayard because I couldn't tell what era he's going to play when we were playing together on the stage. And John is just as adept at changing the styles based on the New Orleans piano heritage. And fortunately, I've had a chance to play with some of those guys. Henry Butler was a wonderful piano player down there. So I understand some of the history, but John is able to talk you into understanding what these styles meant.
Yeah.
And how they evolved with each other and how they ended up by being today's John Batiste piano player. A lovely man, too. We had a good time with that video.
I know I have listeners out there who are going, what? Who are you talking to? What? It's a bass player. He's a bass player.
Yes.
Where's the lead singer? Come on, get out of here. I'm telling you now, friends, the sound of my life is Ron Carter, right? I am thrilled to be talking to him. Randy Roseness.
What a piano player.
Yes. Canadian too.
I don't care, man. I don't hold it against her. She plays good voicings, man. She knows songs, she knows form.
Okay.
And more important for a bass player,
yeah,
she trusts my choice of notes to lead her somewhere else.
Okay. Let me ask you about some, I hope you like this. Three basses. Why am I talking to you? Why don't you tell me three bassists who have had a profound effect on you and music?
First, second, and third base. Baseball diamond.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an American humor. Okay. George Vivier.
Yes.
Another person who helped break the color barrier in New York. Recording scene.
Okay.
Rick Callender, who I met later on in life, did the same thing in California.
Okay.
The first person of color playing the bass who made his presence necessary on those dates.
Yeah.
The third player would be Israel Crosby, who made Ahmed play fewer notes because of his lines.
Do you have a moment for Charles Mingus?
Yeah. Charles was the first person who was able to synthesize Duke Ellington's big band concept with a small group.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that.
I love that he brought gospel into his music. I love that. Wednesday night church meeting.
Yeah.
Percy Heath.
Percy was the first person who introduced to the bass player scene to holster for your bass, the saddle with the holster on your bass. And I met Percy in 1961 in California, and he had at the time TD bass players used either the inside of the piano to put their bow in, or Ray Brown hooked up a music stand, put it on.
Sure. Percy
had this guy named Johnny Ray, a good drummer, percussionist in California, making this bow holster, like the scarab thing for the arrows. And he put it on this, he's the first guy to do that. And he said, Brother Ron, and he just joined out and said, I've just joined Bobby Tillman's and we're learning some music here and I need this bow. He said, well, Brother Ron, take this for me. Try this for me. And it was a bow holster that Johnny Ray made him for the MJQ because Percy did a lot of bowing with John's arrangements.
Sure.
And Percy Heath's record, we played Walking with Miles, J.J. Horace, the Bible. That's the first page of the Bible.
One more, Paul Chambers.
I wish he had the vocabulary to explain what he was doing.
Mm.
He was a genius.
Yes.
And one of the things I one of the things I use in my relationship with him is learning the vocabulary to explain to kids what I do. And I wish he had been around to establish vocabulary to be able to explain to do what he was doing.
Yes, sir. I'm going to finish this with Paul Simon, Run That Body Down. I love that track. Mm-hmm. And I love your bass line in it. I particularly like the fact that your drummer is Hal Blaine.
Yes, yes.
on brushes.
Yes. Well, I think if I got this correct, that the recording of that session was a big fight with Muhammad Ali at Madison Square Garden.
Yeah.
And I said, man, I gotta go. I said, I gotta go to the fight, man. Muhammad, I never seen Muhammad Ali alive, and it's a big fight, and it's a whole thing. I was into sports as a viewer, and so the contractor said, well, how much will it take for you not to go to the fight? I said, have Muhammad come to my kitchen. Of course that wasn't going to happen, man. You come out, come on. I let them know what a reach he's asking me. I said, what's this? I don't know. What's the day pay? I never, I wasn't really aware. I wasn't not unaware of scale and stuff like that. But I want to know what's Paul Simon. So what's the state pay, man? He told me, I said, well, triple that and I'll be there forever. Or for as long as the date is done. And worked it out. Ron,
what are you going to do for your birthday? What's planned?
I have 4 students that morning, 9, 10, 11, and 12. And we'll see how they treat me. That's my birthday will go as they treat me.
Let me see your fingers again, please. Can I see your fingers? How are they holding up? You've asked a lot of those knuckles and the tendons and the muscles. How are they holding up?
Very well. I think, TD, one of the things that I've learned over the years is if you squeeze the bass real hard like this, and play hard like this, your hands can't look like mine.
I want to thank you for this. I'll never forget it, frankly, simply because it's my life in your music. It's amazing the connection between music and people's memories.
Yeah. Well, T, I'm around, and as I told my guy the other day, I'm this far from 87. Having said that to you, I'm around for you to call me anytime you want to do this again.
Thank you.
You know how to reach. Feel free to tell them you got a bed spot. You got a time on your show for another hour or a half hour of me to talk with you about things.
Thank you.
And you work it out with them. They'll tell me that you got in touch, and I'll tell them, whether it works out, let me know when I can do it. We're good.
Have you enjoyed the
Absolutely. That's why I want to get back. I know you got half the questions unanswered. We'll fix that.
Many. And finally, and you don't have to answer this, but I'll ask it anyway.
Yes, I do.
How do you want to be remembered? In 30 seconds.
Okay. As a guy who played great bass and who always had my back.
Thank you for your time. Bless you.
Can I see you soon?
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you.
God bless you, man.
See you soon, my friend.
Thank you, Ron Carter.
Okay.